Good morning, everybody. Today, we're going to be focusing on sensing blocks. The reason I decided to focus on sensing blocks today is because you're going to be using sensing blocks to help you build your clock. And you've already seen sensing blocks before. We've been using them throughout this activity or throughout this unit. But I just want to go more specifically, just talking about them. So this entire video is just going to focus on sensing blocks and essentially what are they, right? So what are sensing blocks? Sensing blocks in Snap and in programming typically are used to detect some information, to detect or gather some information. So think of it, think of a smart car, not a smart car, but the self-driving cars, right? So self-driving cars, they rely on a bunch of different sensors gathering information, right? And they respond using that information. Our sensors in our program or our sensing blocks in Snap do the same thing, right? So we're familiar with some of these like key press, right? So if I press the space bar right here, it says space bar press. If I press the space bar, something happens, right? But we have all these other different ones, such as like mouse down, right? What happens when I press mouse down, right? If I click on the mouse, something occurs. Um, the distance. If I have some information, it gives me the distance from, or it will garner the distance from, for example, this mouse pointer. Or I can have it, if I have another sprite, and I just clicked on another sprite, and I want the distance, I can find the distance from one sprite to the next sprite, right? So I can find the distance to another sprite. And that information might be crucial if I want something to happen in between those distances, right? Maybe I want, as it gets closer, maybe I want the sprite to speed up, or maybe I want my program to change of some sort. So I can have some controls in there, or I can have some commands in there that says, hey, when the distance to the sprite becomes a certain space, I want things to change. Another one that's going to be really, really useful is the costume number of a sprite. So as you guys know, we can add multiple costumes here, right? So if we go here, we go to costumes, we can actually have a sprite. Let's open up, open up, open up. All right, so we can have a sprite have multiple costumes. All right, we can have the sprite be this one, this one. All right, and so I just imported all those images real quick. So now my sprite has 5 different costumes. What if I want something to happen when a certain costume is up, is on the screen, all right? So all those are, so you can see they're all different. What I can do is I can put this costume command right here, this costume number, and I can actually find that sprite, right? So costume number of sprite is equal to, let's say, 2. Um, where's the equal sign? And I'm gonna have it when the costume sprite is equal to 2. I'm gonna have it move, right? So let me see. All right. So I'm gonna do this, and what that happens is, like I said, it's a sensing control. So as long as this sprite, as long as this costume is not at number 2, it won't move, right? I'm gonna put this in forever loop just so I don't have to keep on clicking it. and watch how this is going to work. Let's see. Let's put this in a forever loop. All right. So now this is on. So right now it's not in costume number 2, right? But now if I go ahead and change the costume, oh, see how it moved? So now I went to costume number 2. Once it got to costume number 2, it moved. So it sensed that the costume had changed. And now that the costume changed, it moved across the screen. Let me bring that back so I can show you again. Boom. And like I said, right now it's not costume 2. So because it's not costume 2, it's not changing. But again, if I go here, I'm just going to click on costume, right? And I switch. As soon as I switched to costume number 2, it started moving. As soon as I switched to costume number 3, it stopped. Right? So I can use these things to kind of help me manipulate my program or to control my program. Right? If I wanted to sense something, I need to sense some information. It will sense that information. It will take that information. When that information is true, it will go ahead and operate in the code. So I can put it in an if statement. I can use it in other ways. For this activity, we're going to be using this information. So we're going to actually have, we're going to actually want to find the current second, the current minute, and the current hour. If I click on this, it tells you right now, the second right now is at 11 seconds, 12 seconds, 13, etc. See the hour, it's at 6 a.m. that I'm doing this. So you can see if you click on this button, this actually gives you the time it is currently. All right, so it senses, it gets that information, it gives the information. That is going to be critical for when you're trying to create your clock. Because one of the things that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to figure out how to make your hands move to the proper positions. And you're going to need that information of the actual time, the actual minute, the actual hour. And you're going to have to understand the intervals that occur. One other thing that I want to point out is these little check boxes. And I don't think I've pointed this out before, or maybe I have when we were working together, but I don't think I pointed it out in the video, so you can go back and reference it. These check boxes right here allow us to see this information. So these are essentially storage containers too, right? They're essentially variables too, or they can be seen as variables because this information can consistently change, right? And we can store that information and or change that information. So the answer, you guys have been familiar with this. If you ask a question, that information is stored in this answer variable. And if I want to see that information, what's your name? Tyan. You can actually see it stored right here. These other ones allow me to see the position of my mouse. So my XY, right? Right now it's at negative 45. X, Y is equal to 5. And I actually have a timer thing, a timer control. So you can actually see the timer. And I can reset it. These other blocks, so like I said, I already pointed out the distance. But we can also change like the colors, specific things throughout a program if we want to. We can change this information, and we haven't got to object oriented programming, but once we get to more objects, we'll be looking at this block as well. We can also link other websites here using the URL block. So if we want to take some information from another website and bring it in, we can actually put this here, put this in our program. But we probably won't use that at all. So I think that is it. Oh, let me point out the color. And you guys are familiar with color. We did color, but you can also have it touching other things. So if we have it touch the edge, which is going to be very, very useful for another program that we're going to be creating in a couple weeks, we can have something happen when a sprite is touching the edge. In this situation, like for this case, if I had this move one step, and I'm actually going to have this touch the edge, I'm going to put that in here. So I'm saying if touching edge, I'm going to have it want to have it turn. I'm gonna have it point in. So watch how this works real quick, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to switch it. Oh, let me I'll turn this back on. And so now I had it touch the edge, and if it touches the edge, it turned around. It didn't turn around this time because it touched and it didn't know which direction to go. So, but I can actually put a command in that allows it to keep on touching the edge, and if it touches the edge, it keeps on going back and forth. Right. So those can be useful. Those will be useful in upcoming activities. All right. I will see you guys on Monday. Have a good one.